Hello Year 4, welcome back to your second English lesson of this week. In today's English lesson we are going to be learning to use time conjunctions to sequence the story of a narrative poem. Now to start with, I'm just going to draw your attention to the poem that we've been looking at this week so far, How the Bumblebee Got His Stripes. What I would like to do is spend the next 5 to 7 minutes, spend it annotating the poem according to what features of a narrative poem that you can spot in this one. In your resource sheet, I've included both this poem for you to annotate if you're able to print it off, or you can simply write your answers on a piece of paper. I've also included the example of the different features of the narrative poems that you can see here as well, in case you're a bit stuck or you've forgotten some of them, to just give you a bit of a nudge and help you a little bit. So if you spend around 5 to 7 minutes on that now, please. So pause the video and start making those notes, please. Off you go. Okay, so hopefully that's been done by now, so well done for that. If you send it into the office and I can have a look at that too, we need to make sure we're constantly revising the features of a narrative poem Year 4, because when we come to writing our narrative poem next week, it's really important we know what needs to be included so we can make sure we include it too. So, I want to have a think about the story behind this poem. I've got the animals on my screen here just to remind you of the different animals that are included in this poem. What I want you to do is have a really quick think or a chat if there's someone sitting next to you. Can you remember the story behind this poem? Can you just pause the video and have a little bit of think, please? Off you go. Okay, so hopefully you've had a good think about that and you've revised and remembered what the poem was about, the story behind it. But if you can't remember, that's okay, because I'm going to quickly go through it now. So, it all started when the world began, and each of the animals could choose what colours they wanted to be. Now, we had several animals, such as the elephant had chosen to be grey, the goldfish had chosen to be orange, the cricket had chosen to be green, the jay had chosen to be blue, the polar bear white, and the owl brown. However, the bumblebee could not decide. He was very indecisive. He did not know what colour he wanted to be. And as a result of this, every time one animal chose their colour, something had happened, whether the sun had shone on the bumblebee and it had turned a part of him yellow or a part of him black. At the very, very end of the poem, the bumblebee finally decides that he wants to be every colour of the rainbow. But we know that by then it's far too late and he can't be that anymore. He's already turned into a black and yellow bumblebee. And that is the general story behind the poem. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at time conjunctions to choose 2 or 3 paragraphs of the poem to rewrite as a story, but we need to make sure we know what time conjunctions are. So, what are time conjunctions? Well, time conjunctions are words that tell the reader when an action is happening. They are used to join ideas in a sentence or to give more information, give reasons, or other ideas too. And it's really important that we understand that time conjunctions can be used at the beginning of a sentence and also in the middle. So I've got 2 examples here of a similar sentence using the same time conjunction, but one sentence has it at the beginning and one sentence has it in the middle. So I want you to pause the video and have a think. The difference in where the time conjunction is, does that have an impact on the meaning of the sentence? Pause the video and have a think, please. Okay, so let's look at the first sentence. When the dog had settled in his basket, he began to snore gently. So this one is kind of joining ideas into a sentence, but also giving more information too. And the second one, the dog began to snore gently when he had settled in his basket. So this one here is really joining ideas together too. So I'd say the first one is more about giving more information, whereas the second one is more about joining ideas together in a sentence with that time conjunction. But realistically, the moral of the sentence is still the same, that when the dog settles, he begins to snore, and the dog snores when he's been settled. So it's all about this dog settling and snoring as he's doing that. So it doesn't really change the meaning, but it just changes what the time conjunction is being used to do. More examples can be seen below then, so if you'd like to pause the video and make your way through these and read them, please. So in these four sentences, the time conjunctions before and after are being used. And you can see how in using them at the start of a sentence and in the middle doesn't really change what the sentence is trying to tell you, but it does change where the time conjunction is and what the purpose is of the time conjunction. Now, what I would like you to do, I've given you 5 sentences that are all about our poem, The Bumblebee, and how he got his stripes. And I would like you using one of these time conjunctions for each sentence, so please don't use one twice, they all have their place to fit. Can you try and put the time conjunction in the correct place? Now, what you'll have to do is you'll have to maybe put them where you think they go and then read them again, because some of them might be able to fit more than one sentence, but they all have their own place they need to be. So what I would do, I would read out loud when you've popped it in the place where you think it will go and think, does this make sense? Could it go anywhere else? I would also then want you to think about whether the conjunction appears at the beginning or middle of these sentences and what its purpose is in that way. So if you just pause the video and have a go at popping those time conjunctions, thinking which one would go best in each of the sentences. Pause the video and have a go, please. Okay, so the answers have now come on the screen. We're going to go through these together and have a think. If you haven't got them all right, don't worry. It's a bit tricky because sometimes more than one time conjunction can fit in one sentence. So you might have got a different time conjunction in one sentence and it may make perfect sense, so that's okay too. Number 1, since the bumblebee could not make up his mind, his waist became yellow. So in this sentence here, the time conjunction since is being used to basically show a consequence of something. So since the bumblebee could not make his mind up, a consequence was his waist became yellow. For number 2, suddenly the elephant began to turn grey. You could have had the time conjunction then the elephant began to turn grey, and that would make sense too. Number 3, the cricket bounced into the air with joy. Soon he became green. Another one you can have there is then and also suddenly too. Okay, so don't worry if you haven't got the exact one, because lots of them do fit, but I'm just showing you how you can use a variety of them to mean different things. Number 4, after the jay had thought carefully for a while, he wanted to be blue. Number 5, the polar bear preferred to be white, then he would be able to camouflage with the snow. So for this one, number 5, the polar bear preferred to be white. If I put the time conjunction after instead of then, can you read that and tell me if that would make sense? The polar bear preferred to be white, after he would be able to camouflage with the snow. No, it doesn't make that much sense, does it? So when we are writing our own in a little bit, we need to make sure that we're constantly rereading our writing, because sometimes we might think a time conjunction does fit when actually it doesn't actually make sense. So we need to make sure we are always rereading our work. Well done for that year 4. I have got on my slide 2 of the time conjunction resources that I'm going to give you today to complete your main task. The first one on the left here is lots of time conjunctions, but they actually are grouped up into when you might want to use them, so this helps you a bit more. So when you are writing the first part of your rewrite today, you might want to use the time conjunctions in the column to begin. When you are moving on to your next idea, so it might be that you are moving on to talking about a new animal that has chosen its new colour, you will then use the time conjunctions in the to move on column. You might then decide that you want to let your reader know that the bumblebee has now changed colour too, and this might be a surprise, make the reader feel surprised, and you might want to use some of these time conjunctions here. And finally, you might want to end your passage. We're not going to rewrite the whole poem, but you might want to end your passage of the poem by using any of these time conjunctions here. So I'd say this one could help you a lot with your structuring of when you're rewriting the part of the poem as a story. This one on my right here is a general time conjunctions word mat. It gives you a few extra time conjunctions that maybe if you want to make your writing have a bit more of a variety of time conjunctions, or maybe you don't think any of these fit with your idea, because remember we need to make sure we're rereading them, you might want to use some of these ones here. So you can have a look at some of these ones. and just make sure you're using them in the right places. Because would I use finally at the start of my writing? No, I wouldn't, would I? Would I use first at the end of my writing? No, I wouldn't do that either, would I? So we need to make sure we're using them in the right place, okay? We have looked at them before, so it shouldn't be too new, but let's have a go. So I'm just going to try and move my face out the way here. So what I want you to do is choose 2 to 3 of the verses from the poem How the Bumblebee Got His Stripes. I would like you to make sure that they are in order, so I wouldn't be writing this one, then this one, then this one. Make sure they're in order like I have. The ones that I've chosen are highlighted in yellow here for you. And then what you're going to do is you're going to rewrite it as a story. So you're not going to rewrite it as a poem, you are going to rewrite it as a story in paragraphs, and I have done the same here. And I have made sure that I'm going to add my time conjunctions wherever I can. So let's read mine together and then we'll talk about what we like about it and maybe what we could change about it. So, the next morning, the tiny chirping cricket had heard the exciting news after the goldfish had chosen its brand new dazzling colour. So what I've done here is I've taken the fact that before this paragraph, the goldfish, so I've briefly talked about the goldfish choosing to be orange, and now I'm on to this bit here. So now I'm talking, he decided to be green since he loved the thought of matching the crisp leaves that he inhabited. The crisp leaves that he inhabited, I've made that up completely, but that's okay because I'm giving more of a reason why he wanted to be green, and I've actually included the time conjunction since. So it's basically saying because, but instead of because we are using the time conjunction since. The bumblebee, however, still could not make up his mind. Just then, the bright yellow sun shone so brightly that without choice the bumblebee's waist became yellow. And this is all really taken from here. I've only adapted it slightly to make it my own ideas. You can see in this first paragraph I've got my words in red, which are my time conjunctions, and they've slotted into place really, really nicely. And then I'm now on this second verse here about the owl, and then I've used my time conjunction that same evening, because I know that it's the same evening because it says at that night. So instead of at that night, I've just changed it to a time conjunction saying that same evening. The hooting owl's tube-shaped eyes lit up. Finally, it was his turn to choose a new colour. Eventually, he went for the colour brown, got that information from the poem, which would help him to camouflage with the woodland. I've made that information up, but I've just gone about what seems sensible to write about. The bumblebee, however, still could not make up his mind. All of a sudden, another time conjunction, as the black night grew so dark, the bumblebee's chest became black, and again I've used that from there too. What I've also used that you might have noticed is my expanded noun phrases. The tiny chirping cricket. I've used my expanded noun phrase. I've also included another one here. It's brand new, dazzling colour, my second expanded noun phrase, okay? So that's what I want you to focus on today. I want you to focus on making sure that you've now got your expanded noun phrases with your prepositional phrases included, which were fantastic. You're now going to be rewriting 2 to 3 verses in order from the poem, but as a story, so you'll need to make sure they're paragraphed. Make sure you use your expanded noun phrases, and make sure, I would like you to get at least 4, let's say 4, that's a bit challenging, but let's say 4. If you want to challenge yourself further, try and get 5 or 6 time conjunctions in each paragraph. Obviously, your paragraphs will probably be a bit better than mine, a bit longer than mine, because mine were just to show you what type I wanted you to do. But that is your task for today, Year 4. So now it is your turn to start today's learning. So the work that I would like to be sent in to me, please, is the starter activity of you annotating your poem according to the narrative features, and your lovely paragraphs rewriting that poem as a story. Have a lovely rest of your afternoon, Year 4, and I will see you